Okay then, so in this video I wanted to go over the fact that you probably have a clarity problem and not a productivity problem, because I see you reading the books, watching the YouTube videos, doing all the things that you're supposed to do to gain more knowledge, understand your industry better, but somehow you still can't seem to achieve the results that everyone's telling you if you do 10 emails a day or 500 emails a day. No matter what it is people are telling you, you're doing it and you're not getting the results for that. And I think that all comes down to clarity. So for context, I'm Michalis Fotis. I'm looking to build an online community of entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, people that really care about getting towards their goals and actually doing what they care about in life and pushing that as far as they can. So I'm still on this journey. I'm still looking to grow, develop, become better, as I'm sure many of you are as well. And so I think I'm still in this section too, because I'm doing the outreach. I would consider myself disciplined, posting online, trying to appeal to people, to build these communities that I'm trying to build now. And maybe this video works, maybe it gets, 500 views, maybe it doesn't, maybe it gets like 20. But for the very select few watching, if you are an entrepreneur, a CEO, someone who is passionate about their goals and is actually going to do the actions to get towards their goals, then I'd encourage you and welcome you into the community. And so when I see the whole thing online of, oh, you just need to read more or you just need to do this, you can do that. You can start reading more or you can start sending more outreach. But if you don't have the right proof or the right things to back it up with, then it's kind of pointless. And so when you're so focused on just sending emails, you're not focused on looking at those emails and seeing how they perform, what subject line did the best, what text did the best in terms of the body text, or what CTA performed the best, all of those things. And those can only be tracked if you have like an email tracker or something like that. But the whole point is to stop doing the same things over and over and over again if they very clearly aren't working. And this is something that I've tried to implement into my content because it's something I've been trying to get better at recently. And when I posted on Instagram, I tried a new format that I haven't tried before, and it got over 1,500 views. And just for context, my post has been getting anywhere between 150 to 250 views. So I almost 10x my views, or did 10x my views. And so just by looking at it in terms of, well, if I'm posting the same things and they're not working, I thought I just had to change the topic. But I tried to change the format that I posted it in. And I ended up getting over 1,500 views. And a video I just posted last night is already at 560 views, I think. And so they're already performing better just because I was looking at not just what I was saying, the format, but stop posting the same thing, just saying it in a different way. If that's not working, you have to find a different angle, find a new way to present it to your audience, or give them some value so they'll save the post, they'll like the post, they'll comment, follow you, all those kind of things, which pushes out to the algorithm, and that will make your video perform better. And so the clarity is great if you have it, but doing the things that you need to do is the only way to get the clarity. And I think this is where most people fall off, and most people find it tricky to actually stay on the path or stay on the journey, because they think, if I'm doing outreach and it's not working, then they need to keep doing that aimlessly. But they shouldn't be doing it aimlessly, they should be doing it with purpose, but they still need to keep doing it, because by doing it and doing it over and over and over again, that's the only way that you'll have clarity. Because by doing it loads of times, finding out what works, that's when the clarity comes. The clarity doesn't come from sitting back and waiting until you think you have the perfect script, or until you think you have the best video that's going to perform and get 5 million views. Right? It's all about seeing what's working and testing that constantly. And this comes into the idea of iteration, because clarity and iteration are very closely linked. The more you iterate, the more you change things up, the more you do things in a different way, different style, to try and accommodate to the market or the algorithm or anything like that, to see what's working. That's when the clarity will come after that. Because you have to, like I said, do the actions consistently over time, not just once, not just twice, but you have to keep doing the same thing over and over again, just changing a little thing each time. So whether you're changing the format of your social media post, whether you're changing the subject line of your email, maybe the call to action, maybe you're going to change your whole funnel completely. But it starts by changing one thing at a time in that funnel. And that's why I say at the end of every video, remember to take it one step at a time, because you have to do one thing after the other. If you change everything at once, you won't know what worked, because if you have a system and you just change it completely and then that system does work, you've changed everything. So you don't know if it's the CTA, you don't know if it's the VSL, you don't know if it's the ad creative, right? So all of these things, you need to test them individually to see what is the actual needle mover, what's the thing that's going to change and provide me clarity in what works and what doesn't work. Because it's also important to understand what doesn't work as well as what does work, because if you know what doesn't work, you know to avoid that at all costs. So even if you're thinking of implementing an element of something into an ad, but you know that that one thing you're trying to implement into the ad has never worked before, chances are it won't work with this ad. So you need to change your angle, change your perspective on it, and those kind of ideas, right? So changing constantly and iterating and going over things. Maybe you have a team, maybe you don't have a team, but either way, you need to constantly change and adapt and get better at what it is that you're doing. And I think that's the whole game really of online business, of, you know, anything you're trying to do, self-improvement, fitness, reading. Change what you're doing. Change the way you're doing it, but be methodical about it. Don't just randomly try different things and hope it works. You know, have a reason as to why it might work. Has it worked before? Can you see a proven format that people really like at the moment? Is there a trend that maybe you want to hop on? But building a qualified audience isn't all about going viral. If you go viral, I'm sure that will help you and you'll gain followers, you'll gain customers, but maybe they're not the exact ICP you're looking for. But when you try to target your content to your ICP, to people you're trying to speak to, such as me trying to attract founders, entrepreneurs on here, hence why productivity is in the title, because that's mostly going to attract people that want to improve themselves, which are most likely going to be entrepreneurs. But clarity and productivity are two very different things, but if you combine them in the right way, then they're extremely powerful. Because if you have full clarity but you're not very productive, then you're not going to get much done. But if you have a lot of productivity but no clarity, you're going to get a lot done, but not a lot's going to happen because of it, right? And so it has to be this perfect balance. You have to find a balance in between productivity and clarity to make this work. So a few action steps that I'd recommend for you to do after watching this video is that find out what works, right? So everything you send, or every DM you send, every email, every piece of content you make, actually look at it. And specifically with content, maybe on Instagram, you can actually look at the analytics. You can see when people drop off, and when they drop off, go to that exact moment in your video and find out why. And this was something that I did with the 1,500 view video. I looked when people dropped off mostly, and it was at the moment where I mentioned something that wasn't that broad. I mentioned, I think it was something to do with the business model, and that business model many people hadn't really heard of or didn't really know about it, so they didn't want to watch further because they couldn't relate to it. Right, and so I looked at that moment and I thought that's why they dropped off, because I mentioned this thing. No one really knew what it was. In terms of like a broader market, business owners might know what it is, but a broader market didn't know what that was, and so they dropped off. And so when I made a new video about this kind of thing, I put the most relatable business model first, and then I gradually went down to the least relatable. Right, so hopefully when I post that video in a few days' time, that should perform better, because it's going to keep people watching for longer, increase the retention rate, push it out to the algorithm, and let the algorithm see that this is a video people want to watch. And so have a look in depth in your analytics, in your circumstance of what it is you're trying to do. And if you're sending emails, then the only way to track that is with something like Instantly or an email tracker, where you can see the open rate, the reply rate, the click rate on links, and you know, that whole dashboard is something that maybe you don't have, maybe you do have. But even if you don't have that dashboard, just send the emails and see who replies and who doesn't, and what text did you use, what subject line, and everything like that. But that's the whole point of the video. Productivity and clarity are great when they're combined. When you have one or the other, it's not so great. So thank you very much for watching. Remember to take it one step at a time, and I will catch you in the next one.